The movie opens by showing Cecilia Cass waking up in the middle of the night to escape from her abusive boyfriend, Adrian Griffin. She had drugged him with diazepam and was quietly gathering her belongings and turning off alarms so as not to wake Adrian, while keeping an eye on him through a camera on her phone. As Cecilia gets outside, Adrian's dog Zeus comes out. She removes his shock collar, but he accidentally bumps into a car, setting off the alarm, forcing Cecilia to flee as she knows the noise will wake Adrian. She runs from his estate into the street to meet her sister Emily. As Cecilia gets in the car, Adrian comes running and demands she open the door, even smashing Emily's car window before they drive away. Adrian finds the bottle of diazepam that Cecilia had dropped. 2 weeks later, Cecilia has been staying with her childhood friend, Detective James Lanier, and his daughter Sydney. Cecilia has been too scared to go outside because she fears Adrian will find her. James tries to convince her to go outside, and she makes it to the mailbox before being startled by a jogger that she thinks is Adrian, causing her to run back inside. Emily then visits Cecilia, which Cecilia doesn't like since Adrian knows where Emily lives and may have followed her to find Cecilia. Emily then shows Cecilia a news article stating that Adrian has committed suicide. Cecilia is shocked as she processes the news. She explains to Emily and James how abusive and controlling Adrian was, and how he wanted a baby. But Cecilia knew that would mean she couldn't escape him, so she secretly started taking birth control. Cecilia and Emily meet with Adrian's brother and lawyer Tom, who presents Adrian's will, stating he left Cecilia a $5 million fortune, which she can have if she proves to be mentally competent and doesn't commit any crimes. With this news, Cecilia gifts James a new ladder and opens a college savings account for Sydney. James and Sydney are extremely grateful. At night, Cecilia begins feeling uneasy, as if someone else is in the room with her. She goes to look for James and Sydney, but they are nowhere to be found. Outside in the cold, she sees someone's breath beside her own. In the morning, Cecilia cooks breakfast for James and Sydney. With her back turned, an invisible force knocks the knife off the counter and turns up the stove's heat, causing a small fire that Sydney quickly extinguishes. That night, as Cecilia and Sydney sleep in bed, the invisible force yanks off their covers and quietly snaps photos of them. Cecilia wakes up and tries to grab the covers, but then sees what look like footprints standing on them. They slowly move toward her until she feels a shove and calls for James. She insists someone else is in the room, but James and Sydney see no one. Later, Cecilia goes to an interview at an architectural firm. When she tries to present her work, she finds her bag completely emptied. She begins having a panic attack before passing out. Later on, Cecilia goes for some blood work and is told that there were high levels of diazepam in her system. To her dismay, she finds the bottle she had dropped in James's bathroom with Adrian's bloody fingerprints on it. Cecilia and James go to speak with Tom, showing him the bottle, and Cecilia claiming that Adrian is making good on his previous threat to her about finding her no matter where she goes and leaving her a sign. Knowing Adrian was well known for being a pioneer in optics, Cecilia believes he has found a way to turn himself invisible. Tom disagrees since he has an urn containing Adrian's ashes and also shows her crime scene photos confirming that Adrian slit his wrists. Cecilia later visits Emily, who is unhappy to see her due to an email she received from Cecilia's account. Although Cecilia insists she didn't write it, Emily doesn't believe her claims that Adrian is doing this and sends her away. Cecilia goes home to read the email and sees someone wrote a harsh message to Emily, making it seem like Cecilia wants nothing to do with her and wishing Emily had died instead of Adrian. Sydney comes into the room and sees Cecilia crying over an email. When she tries to help, an unseen force hits Sydney in the face, making her think Cecilia struck her. James enters and takes Sydney away, even though Cecilia pleads that she didn't do it. After they go, Cecilia challenges Adrian to show himself. She spills coffee grounds on the floor and waits in the bedroom for him to become visible. She calls Adrian's cell phone, hearing it ring in the attic. She goes upstairs to find the phone, and an unknown number writes "surprise." Before going back down, Cecilia realizes the invisible man is there, so she spills paint to reveal him. After returning downstairs, she sees the kitchen sink running and realizes he washed off the paint. After getting a knife, the invisible man grabs Cecilia, choking and throwing her across the room. She fights back and manages to escape the house. Cecilia calls an Uber, which takes her to Adrian's house. She goes inside and into the basement, finding a machine and suit covered in cameras that can turn invisible, explaining how Adrian has been haunting her. As she tries to take the suit, she hides in the closet and sees another set of invisible footprints. She pushes the invisible man away and runs back to the car. Cecilia arranges to meet Emily at a restaurant. Cecilia was attempting to clarify to Emily what she had uncovered about Adrian when a knife floated between them. The invisible man slashed Emily's throat and placed the knife in Cecilia's hand, who was stunned. The other people in the room panicked when they saw Emily dead and Cecilia holding the murder weapon. The police arrived quickly and arrested Cecilia. She was taken into a psychiatric ward, screaming that Adrian had killed Emily until she was strapped down and sedated. Cecilia knew Adrian was in the room with her, which was confirmed when she heard his voice tauntingly say, "Surprise." Cecilia was questioned and tested for allegedly murdering Emily. Although she tried to explain what happened, she was afraid Adrian was there listening to what she said. The doctors also revealed Cecilia was pregnant. Tom visited her and offered a deal to make the situation go away. Either she would split her inheritance with him, or she would return to Adrian with the baby. This was because Tom knew Adrian was alive and that Adrian had swapped out Cecilia's birth control pills without her knowledge. Cecilia takes some of Tom's things off the table, seizing one of his quills and a piece of adhesive material. She then hears on the news that it will rain in a few days. When the heavy rain arrives, Cecilia waits for a chance and gets the pen she had hidden. She turns on the shower and declares out loud that she won't let Adrian have the baby. She starts cutting her wrist with the pen before the invisible man grabs her. Cecilia stabs him with the pen, causing his suit to malfunction. A guard comes in and the invisible man shocks him. Cecilia tries to escape as more guards arrive, but the invisible man violently kills them. She takes a gun and goes outside in the rain, where the invisible man takes down another guard. The two face each other, with the invisible man threatening to kill Sydney. Cecilia takes a car and calls James to go back to the house. The invisible man shows up and attacks Sydney, but James comes and winds up getting beaten up badly. Cecilia comes and sprays him with a fire extinguisher before shooting him 4 times. He staggers until he collapses dead. Cecilia takes off his mask to reveal that it was Tom wearing the suit the whole time. Meanwhile, a SWAT team storms into Adrian's house to find him alive and apparently kidnapped by Tom. Cecilia is cleared since the police believe Adrian was just a pawn in Tom's personal plan. But she knows the truth, that this was all Adrian's scheme, including framing his brother. Cecilia later contacts Adrian and arranges a meeting. Cecilia goes over to Adrian's house for a dinner he had prepared. James is outside listening in, expecting Cecilia to get Adrian to say something incriminating. They are sitting where the security camera can see them. She tells Adrian he can't have the baby, but Adrian acts charming and good toward her to manipulate her. She excuses herself and goes to the bathroom. A few moments later, as Adrian sits alone, the knife he is holding goes up to his throat, which gets slashed. Cecilia comes back out and pretends to cry for the camera, but it's obvious she used Adrian's suit to kill him and turn the tables. James rushes over, but despite seeing the suit in her bag, Cecilia firmly insists that Adrian committed suicide, and James seems to have no choice but to accept that story. Cecilia leaves with Zeus, finally a free woman. Don't forget to comment, what movie would you like me to recap? Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video.